The biggest hurdle right now, I'd say, facing Texas brewers is the state Texas Alcoholic Beverage Code.
And it's not the TABC. It's they do what the legislature writes them laws to do.
There's a lot of TABC laws. You don't want to try and interpret too much logic to it. It's more historical on how the beer laws have evolved over the last, since Prohibition. Traditionally, people looked at beer as a lighter malt beverage and then ales as a stronger malt beverage, and hence that got written into the law.
Everything above 5% alcohol by volume is considered ale/malt liquor, and everything underneath is considered beer.
I think they were just using terms that they're like, well, this will be beer.
They just sort of picked 5%.
Ale's over here. And so now everybody thinks ales are stronger. It's like, that's not true. Ale's a yeast.
The brewing industry considers an ale a top fermenting beer. An English bitter, a pale ale, types of wheat beer are all in the ale category. We consider a lager a bottom fermenting beer done with a lager yeast. An Oktoberfest, a Vienna lager, a Pilsner are all lager-style beers.
It got to be kind of a weird thing where if you made a 6% lager, you had to call it an ale on the bottle.
I guarantee you, Paulaner Salvatore in Germany doesn't call it an ale. They're they're not going to call it that.
Texas laws are weird. And as a judge recently said, there's nothing that keeps the legislature from creating screwy laws. And I may be paraphrasing.
We had filed this suit. We actually joined with Authentic Beverage and Zach's in this lawsuit, and we were able to get some of the labeling laws thrown out. We were able to get the prohibition against telling customers where our beer was sold. We were able to get that thrown out.
The lawsuit that Jester King joined, I think, was really a monumental event in Texas beer. The successes that were won in the recent ruling enable us to kind of change the way we label our product.
It's beer. We're making beer. They're lagers, but they're beer. They don't have to be called ale or malt liquor or things that don't make any sense along those lines.
There's going to be some beers that are going to come into the state that probably wouldn't have before because they didn't want to change their labels because there's a cost associated with that.
Some people say that easing those restrictions on imports would add competition, or when people are going to the market, they have 50 options instead of 20.
Pragmatically, they've helped protect the Texas craft industry. While it was really young and probably a little fragile, let's be honest here, if it kept Deschutes out or it kept some of these other out-of-state guys out for a little bit while we managed to get something going, then that can't be all bad. At the same time, their beer has to travel, so it's got extra problems that being local and being fresh, we have an advantage. And I think, good beer overall in the marketplace, good beer will win out.
I'm of the mind that the more craft beer available in the market, the more people are more educated about craft beer and the more craft beer they buy. And I think that adding more beer to the marketplace is good for everyone.
For a beer community to kind of evolve and become more mature, some of the most diverse beers have to be able to make it into a market. We would love to see, Jolly Pumpkin come into our market because that would, introduce people to what a beer that has kind of like a sour barnyardy taste to it is like. And if they try, Jolly Pumpkin, they might try Jester King, just like the way, someone who tried, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale back in the day would try a local Pale Ale.
Well, I've been to the store lately, and there doesn't seem any shortage of selection. So when I hear of these complaints that it's so challenging here, I kind of wonder.
There's a lot of beer here.
What exactly are we talking about? Now, I understand there's a lot of hoops to jump through, but it seems to me like TABC just has crazy rules, and everybody either does them or not. To make it super easy, that might cause a little bit of a problem too. When breweries come from out of state, they're either really well organized and have already done a big market study and are ready to move into Texas in a nice, organized, methodical way, or they just kind of throw it into Texas. It's like, oh, here, try it, And it's like, that's no way to come into Texas.
I've always been a promoter of you shouldn't be able to sell beer outside the county it's brewed in. Nobody likes to hear that. But I just think as a consumer, it would make my life so much more interesting Because I don't like going to Colorado and finding every beer in Colorado that I can see on the shelf here. So, well, what's the fun in going to Colorado to drink beer if I can already get it in Austin, Texas?
One of my concerns is that, everybody gets enamored with Colorado and all these other breweries for coming in from out of state, and hopefully they don't lose sight of what we have accomplished here, The beer enthusiast, though, always has one that he can't get,
True.
And it's because he can't get it. And it's just like, but look at all these great beers. And it's like, but when I go to Denver, I can get this one. I'm like, well, that special Denver trip.
We're experiencing a beer renaissance here in Austin. I've been to Portland a few times and seen their beer scene there, and Seattle, and I think Austin is nothing, there's nothing shabby about Austin anymore.
Obviously they have a really big scene there in the Northwest. But yeah, I would say this competes with it easily.
It's going to take us a little bit of time to get to the level that Portland and Seattle has, but give us some time and we'll be there.
It's got the market for it. People are excited about it. And it, like right now, for instance, the West Coast is super saturated and it's not here.
Maybe you go to Portland and you've got saturation in the brewing industry where it's hyper competitive. But they got 100 times more brewery per person than Texas does. Literally 100 times more brewery per capita. So we got a long way to go.
I stopped in Bend, Oregon this summer. There are 9 breweries with 50,000 people. And I go, well, let's call Austin, I don't know, 500,000. That would be like having 90 breweries here, Like, could you imagine 90 breweries here?
We could open up every single craft beer that plans on opening up this year and next year, and even doubling that again, and we still would not have the saturation that Colorado has, that Portland has.
I think Austin has lots of similarities between the other craft brewing centers in the U.S., specifically places like Denver and Portland and San Diego. Those are great brewing cities, and I think we're certainly on our way that way.
Coming from Colorado, which is a very established industry, it's really great for me to be coming in on that big push to become the next great destination beer city. Not because we're shipping beer, around the country and everybody knows what we're doing, but because people want to know what's going on down here. We have a lot of smaller, local breweries that are producing amazing beer. I would really predict that, we're maybe 3 to 5 years away at most before we kind of become that next city where people are really seeking us out to travel here to taste the beers that we're producing.
Cheers! Cheers!